Welcome to G Fun Facts Online. Today, we're venturing into a world hidden right under your feet. Imagine a superhighway, a bustling communication network that spans entire continents, where resources are shared, warnings are sent, and communities are built. I'm not talking about our internet, but an ancient, living one forged from fungus. It's called the Wood Wide Web, and it's completely changing how we see forests. For centuries, we pictured trees as silent, solitary giants, locked in a slow-motion battle for sunlight and soil. But the truth is far more collaborative and far more complex. Beneath the quiet forest floor lies a secret subterranean society, connecting almost every plant in a dynamic, living network. At the heart of this biological internet are microscopic organisms called mycorrhizal fungi. These errant parasites, they're essential partners. Their bodies are made of a vast network of tiny threads called mycelium, which can stretch for kilometers under a single footstep. This mycelial network acts as a massive extension of a tree's own root system, reaching deep into the soil to find water and crucial nutrients like phosphorus and nitrogen. In return, the trees provide the fungi with the sugars they create through photosynthesis. This partnership, this two-way exchange, has been happening for over 450 million years, and it's the foundation of the forest as we know it. The journey to uncover this hidden world was a long one. It began in 1885 with a German botanist named Albert Bernhard Frank, who first coined the term mycorrhiza, which literally means fungus root. For a long time, scientists thought the fungus was just an opportunistic invader. The prevailing belief in ecology was pure competition, every tree for itself. But that paradigm began to crumble thanks to researchers who saw something more. The real breakthrough, the moment the Wood Wide Web came into public view, was thanks to the work of ecologist Suzanne Simard in the 1990s. Growing up in the forests of British Columbia, Simard was bothered by the practice of clear-cutting. She suspected that removing certain weed species like paper birch was damaging the health of the entire forest. To test her theory, she designed a series of brilliant experiments. Using radioactive carbon isotopes, she could trace the flow of nutrients between different trees. In a landmark 1997 study, she proved that paper birch and Douglas fir trees weren't just competing. They were actively sharing carbon through a shared fungal network. It was a dynamic two-way street. In the summer, the leafy birch sent carbon to the shaded fir trees below. Then, in the spring and fall, when the birch was leafless, the evergreen fir sent carbon back. Simard's work was a revelation. It was the first concrete proof of a functional interspecies resource-sharing network. It was this discovery that led to the name Wood Wide Web and introduced us to the concept of mother trees, the largest, oldest trees that act as central hubs, nurturing the entire community. So how does this forest internet actually work? At its core is that symbiotic exchange. A tree might send as much as 30% of the sugar it produces down to its roots to feed its fungal partners. In return, the fungi act like a super efficient delivery service. Their mycelial threads are far finer and more extensive than tree roots, unlocking nutrients the tree could never reach on its own. It seems to operate on a biological market principle. Trees appear to reward fungi that provide more nutrients with a greater share of their carbon, ensuring the system remains efficient. The network itself isn't one-size-fits-all. There are two main types. Ectomycorrhizal fungi, or EM fungi, are common in temperate forests, with trees like pines and oaks. They form a dense sheath around the outside of root tips. Then there are arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi, or AM fungi, which are more common in tropical forests and grasslands. These actually penetrate inside the root cells, forming intricate, tree-like structures called arbuscules to exchange nutrients. Both types can create vast networks connecting dozens or even hundreds of individual plants, even across different species. But it's not just about food and water. This is also a communication network. Trees can talk to each other using a language of chemical and electrical signals. When a tree is attacked by insects, it can send distress signals through the fungal network to its neighbors. These warnings, which can include chemical compounds and even slow-pulsing electrical impulses, alert other trees to the threat, giving them time to ramp up their own defenses before the attack reaches them. For instance, a tree under attack by aphids has been shown to warn its neighbors, causing them to produce chemicals that repel the pests. And the communication gets even more personal. There is growing evidence that trees can recognize their own kin. Studies have shown that mother trees preferentially send more carbon and resources to their own offspring, giving them a leg up. The exact mechanism is still being studied, but it adds an incredible layer of social complexity to the life of a forest. The ecological significance of this is massive. The Wood Wide Web is fundamental to the health and resilience of forests worldwide. It nurtures the next generation. Young seedlings struggling for light in the understory receive a lifeline of carbon and nutrients from their larger, established neighbors. This dramatically increases their chance of survival. The network also guides forest succession, the gradual change in species over time. As a forest matures, the fungal community changes, which in turn influences which new plants can establish themselves. By sharing resources, the network also fosters biodiversity. It can level the playing field, allowing less competitive plants to survive alongside more dominant ones. This interconnectedness makes the entire ecosystem more resilient. During a drought, connected trees can share water. When pests attack, they can mount a coordinated defense. On a global scale, mycorrhizal fungi are huge players in the carbon cycle. They take a significant portion of the carbon produced by plants and store it in the soil within their vast mycelial networks, a vital process for mitigating climate change. But this forest network isn't a perfect utopia. There is a dark side. The same network that enables cooperation can also be a battlefield. Some plants engage in chemical warfare, a phenomenon called allelopathy. They release toxic chemicals into the network to inhibit the growth of their competitors. The black walnut tree, for example, produces a chemical called juglone, which is poisonous to many other plants and can be transported through the fungal network, expanding its toxic reach. Then there are the ultimate hackers, parasitic plants. These are species that have completely lost the ability to photosynthesize. Instead, they steal their energy directly from the Wood Wide Web. The most famous example is the ghostly white ghost pipe. Lacking any chlorophyll, it simply taps into the flow of carbon between a tree and its fungal partner, siphoning off the resources it needs to live. It's a parasite of the entire system. Even the cooperative acts have a competitive edge. When a mother tree nurtures its own seedlings, it can also be seen as a strategy to ensure the success of its own genes, outcompeting the offspring of others. And the fungi themselves aren't passive players. They might preferentially send resources to the trees that pay them the most carbon, creating a competitive marketplace. The network can even be a double-edged sword for disease. While it can transmit warnings, some studies suggest it could also act as a conduit for pathogens, though the evidence here is complex and still debated. The discovery of the Wood Wide Web has profound implications for how we protect our planet. We can no longer see forests as just a collection of trees to be harvested. We have to recognize them as complex, interconnected systems. Unfortunately, this unseen world is under threat. Deforestation, especially clear-cutting, completely destroys the network. Soil disturbance from agriculture, chemical fertilizers, pollution, and climate change all pose significant risks to the delicate balance of this underground ecosystem. This knowledge is forcing a shift in forestry. Instead of clear-cutting, sustainable practices like selective logging, retaining mother trees, and promoting species diversity are gaining ground. In reforestation, using mycorrhizal inoculants can help kickstart a healthy network for new seedlings. There are still many mysteries to unravel. Scientists are using advanced genetic sequencing and real-time imaging to create more accurate maps of the network and track the flow of information. There's also a healthy scientific debate about the balance between cooperation and competition, which is essential for getting a complete picture. So the next time you walk through a forest, remember that beneath the soil lies a bustling hidden world. A world of communication, cooperation, competition, and connection. The Wood Wide Web reminds us that nature is not just a collection of individuals, but a complex web of relationships, where the health of the whole depends on the health of its parts. It's a story of a world reconnected, and it has the power to change not only how we see our forests, but how we see our own place within the world.